The HeroMe suite has some really important and interesting design principles, but also some compromises that come along with those. And there's also a less known parts cooling system by the same creator that you probably didn't know about yet. We discussed this in a recent interview on this channel with Andy MediaMan3D Soderberg, the creator of the HeroMe Master Suite. This is part of a bigger playlist which I've also linked down in the description. In those videos we talk about how the HeroMe Suite came to life, what's new with HeroMe Gen 6, the new part cooling ducts, design principles and compromises, as well as the new modernization of the documentation through Patreon, and finally the future of HeroMe, what new things are coming. So let's jump right into the interview to learn about design principles and compromises of the HeroMe suite.
I think the HeroMe is successful as it is really for the two key design principles. One, it's got to do great cooling, and two is that it's a standards base that makes it really easy, that isn't going to change. And if you can do 3D design, your time, not just for yourself, but for others, is well worth it, because these mount points are all locked in stone. So people ask me, why don't you can you do a HeroMe for Hemera? Can you do a HeroMe for the new Creality S1, for the Ender 3 S1? Can you do one for the BTT BIQU H2? And these are the ones where it's the fully integrated extruder and hot end all as one object. Well, they're huge. I mean, I have one here in my cabinet. Yeah. There's no way that a HeroMe, to be a HeroMe and also stretch to wrap around one of those, is going to work.
Yeah, that's why I switched. Like, I had the BIQ H2 and it isn't bad. But it's also not perfect. Like, it's not very powerful. Although they claim it is, but the cooling is a big problem. Cooling is a big issue, and so that's the reason why I got rid of it and switched back to the, like, I basically just took the original hot end, but I modified it with like all the other upgrades I told you, like the
a lot of people think that the H2 and the Hemera and this one from Creality and a couple other vendors have their own direct drives. They think, oh, this is brand new tech. No, that was the way it was. For example, I've got two Wanhao i3 duplicators that are from 2015, and that's the hot end. It is a direct drive and hot end integrated into one small package with the stepper motor attached to it. It handles flexibles like
absolutely simple, yeah.
Because it is a tiny, fully integrated setup. They've been around for a long time.
Yeah, and that's kind of coming back for a lot of printers now, and it makes sense to have smaller setups now. Like, probably the parts have become smaller, so the motors have become smaller, and it's probably not that heavy as on an ANIT A8 as it was like when I started. Like, this was my first printer. It was a heavy thing. The Hemera is also pretty heavy.
Yep.
So it's a huge
so that's
thing.
why I kind of shudder when people say, oh, the HeroMe is heavy. Not when you compare it against a Hemera or any of these others. Come on, it's the plastic that's in a HeroMe is nothing compared to the extruder and the stepper motor and the hot end.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably shave off a few grams by using the lightweight fan ducts. You can use only single fan.
There is another hot end, another part cooling system that I designed that has a nice little following. And it's called MediaMan's Minimalist. So if you go to Thingiverse and search for MediaMan's Minimalist, it is a collar. It's for the E3D V6 collar and clones. It's a collar that mounts on the X carriage. It's a bracket to mount your ABL, and it's a very lightweight bracket and duct for one fan. And it's extremely lightweight, extremely small, very little plastic, works like a charm, but it's a single duct, and it's got its own little following.
I see. Okay, yeah, it's good to know, but I don't mind the weight too much. But although I was thinking about going for a single fan setup, but then I was just back and forth between what's more important to me, and cooling is. I say, okay, I want a perfect cooling. I don't want to print too fast. It doesn't really matter to me so much. So what I want is reliability.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who said, oh, gee, I can build something better than a HeroMe. I said, go for it.
Yes,
You know,
sure.
the HeroMe was not meant to be the perfect thing for all printers because it is a standard. There are design considerations and choices that are made that are compromises, right?
Absolutely.
And so, but those compromises are part of this design. So yeah, can you build an assembly for hot end fans and ABL and direct drive that's lighter than this? Yes. Yeah. And so here's a perfect example of a compromise. Because of the gantry adapter, with the exception of the Micro Swiss direct drive, everybody's going to lose 9 millimeters of Y build space unless you adjust your platen to change where, you know, your bed slinger is, because the nozzle, your nozzle is going to be 9 millimeters closer to the front of the printer than without a gantry adapter, because there's that standoff. But that standoff was designed so that those hot ends that currently mount to the gantry adapter, and all those hot ends that mount without that and mount straight up in some device like the HeroMe, all these nozzles are in the exact same place. That's why these ducts work. That's why the 96 ducts all work, because the position of that nozzle doesn't change in relationship to the whole system.
Yeah, that's an interesting fact. That's an interesting fact. It's probably something that I discovered by accident. And I adjusted the
up front. There's a 9 millimeter offset. And in the case of enders, I don't know about every ender, but most enders, you can there's 4 bolts. There's a 40 by 40 rail going across, and another 40 by 40 rail going this way, and there are 4 bolts that hold those together. You can undo those 4 bolts and move the thing back just half an inch, or about half an inch, and just mount it with 2 bolts, and you've solved you don't lose any build space because you've now moved the whole platen forward.
That was part 5 of my interview series with Andy Soderberg about the HeroMe suite. In the next part, which I've linked here for you, we're talking about why the HeroMe Gen 6 documentation and all the future versions of it are only available for Andy's patrons, which essentially means you have to pay for them. Thanks for watching, and I see you in the next video.